The video footage shows men waiting expectantly as an announcer speaking with an Australian accent counts down from 10.
0.
Suddenly, a blast occurs. The sheer force of the explosion ripples and reverberates through the jungle, obliterating trees in its path. It was July 18, 1963, and although never confirmed, it was rumored that the Australians were simulating the effects of a nuclear bomb set off in the jungle. It was codenamed Operation Blowdown. Why a tropical rainforest in particular at that specific time in Australia's history? Although never officially stated, there's little doubt that the test was conducted to determine the feasibility of using atomic blasts to clear the jungles of Southeast Asia. The hypothesis was that the jungle debris would impede enemy troop movement and give the Australians and their allies an advantage. The conflict in Vietnam was just starting up by 1962, and there were communist incursions in Laos. However, those weren't Australia's only strategic military concerns in the region at that time. The country was also on the brink of entering the escalating crisis in Indonesia, in which Sukarno, the leader of Indonesia, was increasingly supporting the country's communists. Neither Australia nor the US was happy about these developments. The testing site was at Iron Range in the Shire of Cook, at the very northern tip of the state of Queensland, and was chosen because it was located in lush tropical rainforest and was a quite remote and underpopulated area. Iron Range also contains 70 different tree species of varying sizes, making it a perfect testing ground. Operation Blowdown's test planners chose conventional high explosives to simulate a low-altitude, 10-kiloton nuclear airburst. At the time, although considered nuclear capable and having 30% of the world's uranium reserves, Australia did not possess any actual nuclear weapons. Achieving such a blast instead required 51 tons of TNT. The operation was run by the Australian Army, the Department of Supply, and the Defence Standards Laboratory. The construction of the base camp and test area was provided mostly by the 24th Construction Squadron, Royal Australian Engineers. The project also involved invited defense and scientific teams from the UK, Canada, and the US. Approximately 1,000 testing and monitoring instruments were prepared and eventually set up at the Iron Range test site. Much of the equipment supplied by the US had previously been used as part of the 1962 Project Plowshare atomic test in Nevada. In addition, the effects of a nuclear-type blast on military material, field fortifications, supply points, and foot and vehicle movement were also to be examined within the context of a rainforest environment. Ground Zero itself was comprised of a spherical charge of 45 tons of TNT. The sphere contained a total of 2,438 TNT and 70 CE-TNT booster canisters, resting on 408 supply blocks with a diameter of approximately 13 feet, or 4 meters. These charges were detonated on a straight-sided tower 136 feet, or 41 meters above ground level, and 69 feet, or 21 meters above the rainforest canopy. Extreme care was taken during construction, since damage or air gaps could have caused jetting or deformation of the blast wave. 4 lanes within the forest were centered on the tower and set up with instrumentation, and one 200-foot-wide lane was cleared of vegetation. Only selected trees were left in place so that the impact on them from the blast at varying distances from Ground Zero could be studied. Researchers also measured more than 17,000 trees near Ground Zero before the test, from mere saplings to jungle giants. They then compared measurements of what was left of the trees after the explosion to gauge the bomb's effects. Military equipment, including light and heavy weapons, mortar pits, ammunition, trenches, aerial moats, wireless communication equipment, and cables were also positioned around the blast site. Dummy troops dotted around the area completed the pre-blast staging. On the day of the blast, hundreds of workers, soldiers, and scientists at the test site retreated to safe distances, and meteorologists assessed the weather to be favorable. At 8:30 local time that morning, the 51-ton bomb exploded and almost instantly turned 37 acres of the jungle into a pile of smoldering trunks and debris. After the explosion, the test area was covered in up to 3 feet of leaf litter, and troops moved through this debris field to test their ability to traverse it. The blast caused complete destruction for up to 250 feet, severe damage within 400 feet, and stopped around 900 feet. Instruments at the blast site recorded 83 psi at approximately 190 feet. As a reference point, the pressure of only 5 psi is enough to destroy built-up urban settlements. The blast's force would correspond to wind speeds higher than 1,000 miles per hour, or 1,600 kilometers per hour, and would be equivalent to 1 megaton of TNT blasted at 3,000 feet. The result of the findings was that a tactical nuke wasn't actually useful in a jungle environment. Despite all the devastation caused, the debris would not impede enemy troop movement through the terrain. It wasn't as if Australia hadn't already experienced actual nuclear testing. In the 1950s, the country hosted several British atomic tests at the Maralinga site in the country's outback in South Australia. The terrible ecological and community-related impacts of those tests remain classified until the end of the 20th century. Their revelations caused severe tensions between the United Kingdom and its former colony. Ecologically, Operation Blowdown was a disaster. To this day, the 37 acres of flattened forest have never fully recovered. John Pritchard, a local horticulturist, stated, quote, "Prior to the detonation, the land where the test occurred was what we call a semi-deciduous mesophyll vine forest, a quite lush tropical place. Now the present site is a weedy paddock.